Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint.com is now TradingCardMint.com. Please check out their selection of over 20,000 cards with prices cheaper than TCG Player.
Whew, this definitely proves that Premium is a massively unexplored format. So guys, please check out our friends at TradingCardMint.com down below in the description. Enter MCOL40, save you guys yourselves a little bit of money on your order. So let me explain what we're going to be looking at today. So recently on Twitter we came across a Victor list, and I've seen Victor come up every once in a while for premium tournaments, so I really didn't think to explore it. And me and Austin were having a discussion. We're like, you know what? Let's try it and let's see what we got. Well, as the format has actually developed itself out now, this deck is actually still really good, actually. You have a couple of cool things you can do. You can give yourself the 4th Excel circle, or depending on how the game goes, you can still do what you need to do and still kill your opponent on this guy. So let's dig on into this madness, shall we? So I've never been much of a Victor expert, but I will tell you what you get from this Victor is the actual nuts. Literally. Like, so counter plus 1 when you stride on top of this unit, draw a card, choose a card from hand, call it to rear guard, and till the end of this turn it gets, your opponent cannot, or when this attack stands, choose one of your other rear guards and stand it. So bada bing bada boom. Skills are so good. And at the end of the turn, the number of face-up cards in your damage zone is 1 or less. You get to countercharge 1. The number of cards in your soul is 1 or less. Soul charge 1. And if you do countercharge, soul charge, and draw a card. What the fuck were they thinking? Getting an additional attack on top of your break straight turn is pretty good. And then we're playing 3 copies of this guy. So the only thing we care about is this guy pretends like he's Fidus and is cool, but he does grant you that additional 4th magical circle. Ooh, it's not necessarily a bad, terrible ride because you don't lose value out of this, but I mean, on place when your opponent, as at the early stages of the game, being able to deny them and force them to go for the 1 extra damage. Basically, if you go first, this forces your opponent to eat a damage. Honestly, this is probably the better one that you could get just in terms of value, because you don't really give a shit about your counter blast, honestly. It just better fuels up for the turns that you're doing your counter charging and skills off of him. Now, the heart and soul of the deck is still pretty much essentially the same thing. We have 4 copies of our home dog, Gosachi. We have a Vanguard with Victor in his card name. This guy gets resist and auto rear guard. Counter blast 1. When it attacks me, pay this cost you choose one of your other rear guards and stand it. Then when this guy stands due to the effect of your card, this guy gets plus 7,000 power. And that's his GB2 once per turn. So, I hate this card. This card's so broken for what it is. Now, I believe that this has become more of a standardized norm in the decks. I didn't see a lot of builds playing this as of late, but it's Rush. Once per turn, when this stands due to one of your effects, it gets 5k for each face-up card in your G-Zone. When you're on your Victor stride and you're just constantly flipping for all of that additional power, things kind of start to get a little bit crazy. And I like crazy. It's a very good thing. So I will say that this card does what it needs to do. Pressures the opponent, and the fact that when it stands you just get the free once per turn effect, like, hello free value time. Now, this is the last Grade 2 we are playing. Much like its predecessor over here, this also has a once per turn skill of when this unit attacks, if you have Vanguard Victor in its card name, you may pay its cost to you, choose one of your other rear guards, stand it, and that unit and this unit each get plus 2k until the end of the turn for each face-up card in your G-Zone. They definitely made this deck become a turbo engine for its former self. You basically play this deck with the full intent to make sure that you are maximizing your attack value. And the fact that these can climb over the new basic numbers is very crucial. I can't tell you how many times I've been shocked by just thresholds being crossed because of the power of these. Now, grade 1s, we are playing 3 copies of the Battle, or the Riser. The good thing for this is this does allow for that weird turn 1 interaction where you can be able to attack your opponent for no drive check and basically force both players to either discard a card or you set your opponent at 1 damage at, well, the beginning of the game. Giving your opponent that counterblast in the early stages can lead to some really bad interactions. Unfortunately for you, especially Shadow Paladin players with their Blaster Javelins. But this does put pressure on the opponent, and that's something that this deck has needed for a little while. You need to be able to close games, and early game pressure, especially in terms of going first, is something that I think that this deck has needed. And having this just accelerates the overall process. We're playing 3 copies of Mr. Gunston. So act rearguard. Rest this, choose up to 5 of your rearguards until the end of the turn they get continuous resist. And then rush when the unit stands due to your opponent's effect. This card gets 4k until the end of the turn for each face-up card in your G-Zone. Rest it to give up to 5 of your units resist. Seems really good to me, honestly. This card helps with a lot of those pesky matchups that will make an attempt to board wipe you. So understand that this card is the incarnate of value. 3 copies of our new friend Jurohawk. So auto rearguard, put this unit into your soul at the end of the battle in which it boosts your rearguard. You have a Vanguard Victor in its card name. You may pay its cost if you do draw a card. Stay in the boosted unit, and this guy, oh, and it gets 2k until the end of the turn. So this guy pieces out, gets you an additional resource. Yeah, there's not much more to really say about him, but additional attacks are really key. 4 copies of Aura shit. Stride fodders are, they're very important. You are on 3 or 7 grade 3s. So you need to make sure that whatever you are doing, make sure that you can get a constant, steady flow of striding going. If you fail to have strides going, well, I have unfortunate bad news for you, friend. You're probably going to lose the game. Starter is Mario. You need to make sure that you can search for that grade 3. And I mean, we're not particularly worried about the counterblast that he cost. This deck is playing 3 front triggers. If you have that 4th Excel circle going, oh my god, the Pound Town is real. I will take it. So, this card is on the defense, it's a powerhouse. We're playing 2 copies of the critical triggers. A random value. 3 copies of the stand trigger that does really cool things. 4 copies of the draw sentinels, and 4 copies of the countercharging heals. Just depending on what you need. Now the G-Zone is a little bit more standardized for what you would expect. 2 copies of Winning Champ, the best thing that you could have going for yourself in this deck. The thing that you kind of want to focus your flipping on is Bustard. So remember, Bustard does involve choosing a face down card from your G-Zone during face up. When it attacks, choose the same number of your rear guards face up for the number of Mini Kaiser Bustard in your G-Zone and stand them. And if 2 or more withstood, and you have 5 rear guards until the end of the turn, this gets Counterblast 1. Choose 2 cards from your hand and discard them at the end of the battle. You may stay in this unit, and it gets Drive -2. So you basically just get the fuel restander that does stuff. Just a resource. There's no reason not to do it. This is the card that you will use to kill your opponent 95% of the time. No reason not to play this. Like you need it. GB8. If this fails, you have this guy, but I mean, to be honest with you, it's never going to come up. It's just an additional powerhouse. That's why you have to play it. 1 copy of Stark, I don't feel so well. This card is so good. Additional flip targets for your resource pool. 2 copies of Mr. Victoplasma, because we need to make sure we kill our opponent. And G-Guardians, 1 Unor, 1 Dismal, 2 of this, and the card that allows us to essentially countercharge for no real reason. So guys, this is the current Victor deck that we're exploring. I will say that I am not disappointed on the new once per turn rollings. They've definitely made the deck a lot more interesting. Please check out our friends at tradingcardmint.com down below in the description as well. Enter MCO40 on checkout. Save your guys' selves a little bit of money. And guys, that's all I have for this video. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about the list. And guys, I'm out. Deucerinos.